We were a normal family. At least that's what everyone thought. From the outside, it looked fine. Clean house, regular dinners, polite smiles. But inside those walls, something was quietly falling apart. No screaming, no chaos, just silence. The kind of silence that slowly eats you alive. People say family is everything. But nobody tells you how lonely it feels when your family is right there and still feels a million miles away. This isn't a story about one bad day. It's about years of small moments, missed conversations, swallowed emotions and pain nobody knew how to explain. And the truth is, by the time we realized something was wrong, we were already breaking. We were together but not connected. Growing up, our house was never loud. No shouting matches, no slammed doors, no dramatic fights like you see in movies. And honestly, that felt like a good thing. Dad worked long hours, like really long hours. He left early, came home late, and always looked exhausted. Mom held the house together, cooking, cleaning, making sure everything looked perfect. On the surface, we were doing okay. But okay isn't the same as happy. Dinner time was the one moment we all sat together. Same table, same routine. Dad scrolling through his phone. Mom asking basic questions. Everyone replying with one-word answers. How was school? Fine. How was work? Busy. And that was it. No one talked about feelings. No one asked deeper questions. It wasn't because we didn't care, we just didn't know how to start. So we didn't. I remember sitting there staring at my plate, feeling this weird heaviness in my chest, like something needed to come out but there was no space for it. No moment that felt right. Dad wasn't cold. He wasn't cruel. He was just absent, even when he was home. Mom tried to keep things normal. She smiled a lot. Too much maybe, but I could see it in her eyes. She was tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. Weekends weren't much different. Everyone stayed in their own bubble, phones, TV, silence. We lived together, shared the same roof, the same food, the same last name, but emotionally, we were worlds apart. And the crazy part? None of us thought this was a problem. We told ourselves this was just adult life. That being tired and disconnected was normal. That emotions were something you dealt with alone. But that's how it starts. Not with a big fight, not with hate. With distance. And distance has a way of growing quietly. Until one day it's too big to ignore. Everyone was carrying something. The thing about silence is, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. It usually means everything is happening. Just inside. Dad wasn't just tired from work. He was scared. Scared of failing. Scared of not being enough. Scared that if he slowed down even a little, everything would fall apart. So he kept pushing. Extra hours. Extra stress. Less sleep. Less presence. In his head, he was being a good father. In reality, he was disappearing. Mom carried her own weight quietly. She never complained, never snapped. She just adjusted, took on more responsibility, more emotional labor, more pretending that everything was fine. But you can only pretend for so long. I started noticing small things. Mom zoning out mid-conversation. Dad getting irritated over tiny stuff, like if someone left a light on or made noise while he was watching TV. It wasn't anger. It was pressure leaking out. As for me, I felt stuck in the middle. Too young to understand everything. Too old to ignore it. I didn't know who to talk to. Whenever I tried to say something real, the moment passed. There was always a reason not to talk. Dad was tired. Mom was busy. And I didn't want to be another problem. So I kept it in. School became my escape. Friends, noise, distractions. But even there, something felt off. I laughed, joked around, acted normal, but inside I felt heavy. Like I was carrying a backpack full of emotions with no place to unload it. At home, the distance grew. Not dramatically, subtly. Less eye contact. Shorter conversations. Longer silences. We were all hurting in different ways, and somehow, that made us blind to each other's pain. That's the messed up part about family struggles. Everyone thinks they're protecting everyone else by staying quiet. But silence doesn't protect you. It isolates you. And without realizing it, we were slowly turning into strangers. People who knew each other's routines, but not each other's hearts. None of us saw it yet, but something was building. And when emotions pile up long enough, they don't stay quiet forever. The first crack wasn't loud. It didn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It came on a random Tuesday night. Dad came home later than usual. Way later. Dinner was already cold. Plates still sitting on the table like they'd been waiting for him. Mom didn't say anything, she just reheated the food. Her movements sharp and quiet. That silence felt heavier than words. Dad noticed it too. You could tell. He tried to make a joke, something casual like long day, but it landed flat. No one laughed. No one even looked up. That's when the tension showed its face. Mom finally spoke, her voice calm but tight. You could have texted. It wasn't an attack. It was a sentence. But Dad heard it as criticism. I was busy, he said, already defensive. Busy, that word again. Something shifted in the room. I felt it in my chest, that familiar tight feeling, like something bad was about to happen. Not explosive, just uncomfortable. Mom nodded, but her eyes didn't. I know, she said. You're always busy. That was it. No yelling, no drama, just truth slipping out sideways. Dad pushed his chair back a little too hard. Not enough to be dramatic, just enough to show irritation. I'm doing this for us, he said. Everything I do is for this family. And there it was. The wall. Mom didn't respond right away. She stared at the table, then at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer. I know, I just miss you. That should have ended it. It should have brought them closer. But instead, Dad went quiet, completely shut down. He finished his food in silence, stood up, and went straight to the living room. TV on, conversation over. I sat there frozen, watching it all happen, feeling like I'd just witnessed something important, something that couldn't be taken back. That night, the house felt different. Not broken, but cracked. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment over and over, wondering how two people could love each other and still feel so far apart, wondering if this was normal. Wondering if this was my fault somehow. No one talked about it the next day, or the day after that. But once something breaks, and even just a little, you can't unsee it. And now that the crack was there, everything else started slipping through. Distance becomes normal.
Dinner's almost ready,
After
everyone.
that night, nothing exploded, and that was worse. Because silence became our new normal. Dad started coming home later. Not just physically, but mentally too. He'd sit in the living room, flipping channels, barely acknowledging us. Sometimes I'd catch him staring blankly at the wall, lost in thought. It was like he was there, but not really. Mom kept herself busy. Laundry, dishes, work emails. Endless tasks that filled the hours but didn't heal anything. She smiled when we passed each other, but there was a tiredness in her eyes that never went away. Me, I learned to speak less, because every time I tried to say something real, it didn't land. Either Dad was too tired to care, or Mom had already moved on to the next thing. So I bottled it all in. Lily, my younger sister, started disappearing into her phone. Social media became her escape, a world where she could be seen, heard and liked. Not perfect, but better than feeling invisible at home. Jake, the youngest, stopped sharing. Every little frustration, every little joy he tucked away. Sometimes he'd snap at Mom or Dad, but quickly he'd retreat to his room, slamming doors so quietly you almost didn't hear. Dinner became a silent routine again. The occasional "how was school?" or "how was work?" felt mechanical, and everyone answered in one-word replies. It wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't fighting. It was distance, and that's even worse, because it slowly convinces you that it's normal. Weekends were no longer a relief. Saturday morning cartoons and brunch became solo activities. We'd sit in the same room, but nobody really saw anyone else. The house echoed with quiet laughter from the TV, but not from us. Sometimes late at night, I'd hear soft crying from Mom's room. Not loud, not dramatic, just soft sobs, and I'd freeze, unsure whether to knock or leave her be. We were all surviving in our own ways, pretending everything was fine, pretending we didn't notice the cracks growing wider. And here's the cruel part. The longer distance exists, the easier it is to ignore it. You convince yourself this is just life. Everyone's busy. You tell yourself we're okay. But deep down, everyone knows the truth. The family that once felt like a safe space now felt like strangers living under one roof. And the worst part? We didn't even know how to start fixing it. The hidden struggle. It's funny how people can live in the same house and still feel completely alone. Mom started waking up earlier than anyone else, just to have a few quiet moments before the day began. She'd sit at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, staring out the window like she was waiting for something that would never come. Sometimes I'd peek in and I could see it. The exhaustion, the weight of holding everything together while silently falling apart. Dad, on the other hand, came home later and later, carrying the stress of work like a backpack he refused to put down. I didn't know if he even noticed the silence at the dinner table anymore. He talked less, smiled less, and sometimes when he laughed, it felt forced, like a mask he couldn't take off. Lily's escape was her phone. I started noticing her staring at it for hours, scrolling, liking, messaging, but rarely talking to anyone face to face. Her laughter online sounded lighter than at home, and I realized she had created a world where she felt safe, away from our silent house. Jake was the hardest to read. He didn't cry, didn't argue, he just bottled it all up. Sometimes I'd hear him pacing at night, muttering to himself or throwing a pillow against the wall. I knew he was angry, frustrated, but he didn't know how to tell anyone. And me, I felt stuck, caught between seeing their pain and carrying my own. Guilt became my constant companion. Guilty for wanting attention, guilty for feeling lonely, guilty for feeling frustrated at the people I loved the most. Sometimes we'd accidentally bump into each other in the hallway, no words, just a glance. And in those brief moments, I could see it. We were all crumbling inside, just in different ways. No one wanted to talk about it, because talking meant acknowledging it. And acknowledging it meant facing a reality that scared all of us. The house felt like a museum of emotions we were too afraid to touch. Sadness, frustration, guilt, resentment, all neatly tucked behind polite smiles and short answers. One night I overheard Mom whisper to herself while tucking Lily in, "I'm trying my best. Why is it never enough?" That's when it hit me. None of us were okay, and no one knew how to ask for help. We were surviving, yes, but barely, and the cracks were only growing wider. The first real confrontation. It finally happened one Friday night. The kind of night where everything you've been holding inside decides it's time to come out all at once. Dad came home later than usual. "Traffic," he said. But we all knew it wasn't just traffic. There was something heavier in his eyes, something unsaid. Mom had been waiting for him at the table. Dinner was cold again, but this time she didn't smile. She just set the plates down and looked at him, really looked at him. "Mark, we can't keep doing this," she said, voice low but firm. That's when Dad snapped, not in anger but in frustration. "Doing what, working? Providing for this family?" Mom's eyes glistened. "Providing? You're here, yes. But you're not here, not really. We're barely talking. The kids are growing up in silence." I sat frozen, fork halfway to my mouth. Lily peeked from her room, Jake from his bed, both wide-eyed. Finally, someone was saying what we'd all been feeling, but nobody had dared to speak. Dad's shoulders slumped. I don't know how to fix it. I thought I was doing the right thing. Mom shook her head. "The right thing? You can't fix us with money or hours, Mark. We need you. All of you. The part that smiles, laughs, listens. That part that's been gone for years." Silence, heavy, suffocating silence. Then Jake blurted out for the first time in months, "You guys don't even care. You're never here." It hit harder than I expected. Dad flinched. Mom looked guilty. And I realized when we were all finally letting it out. Lily whispered from the doorway, voice shaky, I just want someone to notice me." And that was it. The dam broke. Suddenly, the kitchen was filled with words, tears, frustration spilling everywhere. Dad apologized, trying to explain. Mom cried, trying to forgive. The kids, Lily and Jake, and both vented months of loneliness. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't calm. It wasn't even fully resolved. But it was real. For the first time in a long time, we weren't pretending. We weren't swallowing emotions. We weren't smiling to cover cracks. We were broken, yes, but we were finally talking. And sometimes talking is the first step. After that night, things didn't magically become perfect. Life didn't suddenly feel like a movie. But there was a shift, subtle, almost invisible, yet powerful. Dad started coming home on time more often. Not because he was forced, but because he realized presence mattered more than hours at work. Sometimes he would just sit at the table without saying a word, watching us eat, and it felt like he was really there. Mom began to laugh again, softly, sometimes even without hiding it. She made coffee in the mornings and asked us how our day went, and actually listened. Small gestures, almost insignificant on their own, but together they were powerful. I noticed Lily putting her phone down at dinner for the first time in months. She laughed at Dad's bad jokes. She even asked Mom about her day. It was like the walls were slowly coming down, brick by brick. Jake started talking more too. Not all at once and not all his feelings, but enough to let us know he was still there, still connected. He'd occasionally sneak a smile when Dad teased him, or shrug off a small fight without shutting down completely. Me? I started opening up a little too, sharing school stories, small frustrations, even my own fears. It felt risky at first, like showing a vulnerable side. Might get ignored or brushed off, but slowly, I realized it mattered. They cared. They really did. We started eating together again without rushing through dinner. Conversations were short at first, stilted even, but at least they were real. Sometimes we'd laugh, sometimes we'd argue, but the point was we were talking. Even the little things made a difference. Dad making a cup of tea for Mom, Mom leaving, a sticky note on Lily's laptop that said, "You're doing great." Jake drawing a silly doodle and sticking it on the fridge. I started writing small notes for my family too. It wasn't a perfect fix. It wasn't a sudden change. But for the first time in a long while, it felt like we were noticing each other again, and that's what matters. Not grand gestures, not huge apologies, small acts of connection, the kind that whisper, "I see you, I hear you, I'm here." We were learning to be present again, to feel each other's presence even when the world outside demanded everything else. The cracks hadn't disappeared, but for the first time they weren't widening. We were finally starting to heal, finding moments of joy. Slowly, the house started feeling different. Not perfect, not fixed, but lighter. Dad started cracking jokes at the dinner table again. Bad ones, of course. The kind that made us roll our eyes, but somehow, laughter snuck in between bites. Even Jake, who usually stayed silent, laughed out loud once and looked genuinely surprised at himself. Mom started singing along to old songs in the kitchen. Sometimes she'd catch one of us watching and just wink, like she was saying, "We're okay now." Lily picked up painting again. For weeks, she'd locked herself in her room with her phone, scrolling endlessly. But now she spread her paints across the dining table, letting colors bleed over newspapers. She even tried to make us laugh by drawing exaggerated cartoons of Dad. I joined her one afternoon. It was awkward at first, silent brush strokes side by side. But then she said, "I miss this." And I realized I did too. Missing moments that weren't just about surviving, but about really being together. Weekends became something to look forward to. We played board games, Dad grumbling when he lost, Mom laughing so hard she cried, Jake teasing Lily relentlessly. Those small arguments, the playful bickering, the laughter. It felt like a balm for all the months of tension. Even the smallest gestures mattered. A simple hug from Mom in the morning, Dad ruffling my hair when I left for school, Lily handing me a paintbrush with a sly smile, Jake sneaking snacks into my room without asking. It wasn't about fixing the past. It was about creating new moments, small enough to fit into our broken routine, but powerful enough to remind us why family mattered. I realized then that joy doesn't always come from perfect moments. It comes from noticing the little sparks in a day, laughing at stupid jokes, sharing a glance that says, "I see you, you're not alone." And for the first time in a long time, the heaviness in the house lifted a little, not gone, but lighter. The walls still bore cracks, but now, sunlight found its way through them. We were learning something new, that family isn't about being flawless. It's about being present, about choosing to be there even when it's messy, even when it's hard. And in those small, messy, imperfect moments, hope started to bloom. Facing the guilt. Even though we were laughing again, a shadow lingered. The cracks hadn't disappeared. They were just softened by our small joys. Mom stayed up late some nights staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the years she'd silently carried everything herself. She whispered things she never said out loud. Could I have done more? Was I too hard on them? Dad, too, wrestled with guilt. He realized that his busy work had cost him time with us, time that no amount of money could ever replace. He'd catch himself hesitating before speaking, thinking carefully about his tone, trying to undo years of silence in small words, small gestures. And the kids? We carried guilt too. Guilt for not speaking sooner, for ignoring Mom and Dad when they were quietly struggling, for letting distance grow instead of reaching out. I remember one night sitting with Jake, just the two of us. He whispered, almost ashamed. I felt invisible, like none of you cared. I hugged him tight, saying, "We do care, we just didn't know how to show it." It was a small conversation, but it opened a door. For the first time, we were acknowledging the pain without hiding behind excuses. We started checking in with each other more often. Not just casual questions like, "How was your day?" but real ones. "Are you okay? Do you want to talk? Can I help?" Those 3 questions became a ritual. Small, simple, human, but they carried weight. They reminded us that acknowledging feelings mattered. More than pretending everything was fine, we also started forgiving ourselves. It wasn't easy. Guilt and regret cling to you like shadows, but talking about them, sharing them, made them smaller, less intimidating, less paralyzing. Every night, we made a small effort to say one thing we appreciated about each other. It started awkward, but gradually it became natural. Dad thanked Mom for dinner. Mom praised Lily's painting. Jake gave me a smile that said more than words could. Even I noticed that the weight on my chest was lighter. The tension between us, the silent walls, they weren't gone, but we were learning to climb over them. One conversation, one hug, one laugh at a time. And that's the thing about healing. It doesn't happen all at once. It doesn't erase mistakes or silence years of distance. It starts with noticing, speaking, and caring enough to try again, even if it's messy, even if it's uncomfortable. Rebuilding trust. The next few weeks felt like walking on a thin rope. We were careful, aware that old habits could pull us back into silence. But something had shifted in the willingness to try. Dad started joining us in small rituals. Breakfast became a family moment again. Not just eating side by side, but talking, asking questions, listening, laughing, even teasing a little. Those small daily routines became a bridge. Mom suggested a family night once a week, no phones, no distractions, just us. At first it felt forced. Jake rolled his eyes. Lily groaned. I wasn't sure if it would work. But the first night, we played board games, shared stories, and laughed so much that even Dad's bad jokes seemed funny. Slowly, trust began to rebuild. The kids started opening up without hesitation. "I trust you won't get mad," Lily said one evening, showing me a painting she'd made. Dad admitted he felt guilty about the years lost. And Mom shared her fear that we'd never connect again. And we listened. Truly listened. Even small gestures mattered. Dad would check if Mom needed help before asking for something himself. Mom would leave little notes on the fridge just to make us smile. Jake started helping Lily with her school projects. I found myself leaving short messages for everyone. Little reminders that I was thinking of them. It wasn't perfect. Old arguments still flared up. Tension still bubbled from time to time. But the difference was huge. We were learning to face it together, rather than retreating into silence. We started noticing each other's moods. A raised eyebrow, a sigh, a small frown. And someone would ask, "Hey, what's going on?" No judgment. No criticism, just care. Even simple eye contact became meaningful. The look that said, "I see you. I'm here." And slowly, these small rituals grew into something more. Sunday dinners became moments to share achievements and frustrations. Evenings were for games, stories, or music. Weekends included small walks or trips, just to be together outside the walls of routine. Rebuilding trust isn't a sprint. It's a series of small, deliberate steps. But every step counted. Every conversation, every laugh, every shared meal was like a brick in a wall that was finally solidifying. Not rigid, but strong enough to hold us together. And for the first time in years, I felt it. A sense of safety, a sense of connection, a feeling that no matter what, we were in this together. The kids speak up. For weeks, we had been taking small steps toward each other. But one evening, something shifted in a way none of us expected. Lily came home from school unusually quiet. Usually, she'd be glued to her phone or chatting with friends. But that day, she just stared at the floor as she kicked off her shoes. Mom noticed first. "Hey, honey, what's wrong?" she asked gently. Lily looked up, and for the first time in months, I saw her emotions pour out like a dam breaking. "I feel like nobody notices me. Nobody really sees me. I'm here, but it's like I don't exist." It wasn't just whining. It wasn't a momentary tantrum. It was raw, honest, and scary. The kind of truth kids hold back because they think adults won't understand. Dad froze. His face softened, and he walked over to hug her. "I see you, Lily. I've been blind, and I'm sorry." Jake, who had been sulking in the corner, spoke up too. "I felt like that too. I didn't know how to say it. I guess I was angry instead." And suddenly it wasn't just Lily speaking. It was all of us. We talked for hours that night. About loneliness, guilt, frustration, and misunderstandings. About the silent walls we'd built between ourselves. About the things we'd missed in each other's lives. What struck me most was how brave it was, not just Lily, not just Jake, but all of us finally putting words to feelings we'd buried for years. After that night, things started to change faster. Lily started sharing her day more often, even showing us sketches and paintings she had made. Jake smiled more, teasing Mom and Dad without fear of being ignored. Dad started asking real questions about our lives, not just, how was school? But what's really going on? Mom shared more of her own struggles, making it safe for us to open up too. Even I felt a weight lift from my chest. We were finally talking, truly talking, and in the process we were healing. It wasn't perfect. Not every conversation ended smoothly. Not every day was happy. But the house felt alive again. Alive with connection, laughter, and the occasional tears that finally had a place to land. We realized that emotional breakthroughs aren't about grand gestures. They're about honesty, listening, and letting someone know they matter. And in that moment, we all understood. Family isn't perfect, but when we face our pain together, it can be stronger than anything else. Healing together. Months had passed since that first big confrontation. The silence that once ruled our home had been replaced with conversations, laughter, and even the occasional argument. The kind that ends with understanding rather than frustration. Dad was different now. More present, more attentive. He still worked long hours, but he made time for us. Sometimes it was a simple, hey, wanna watch a movie? Or helping Jake with a school project. Little things, but they meant the world. Mom's laughter returned fully. She no longer carried the invisible weight alone. She let us in, shared her worries, and we shared ours. Together, we were a team again. The kids, Lily and Jake, thrived in ways we hadn't seen before. Lily started expressing herself through her art and talking openly about her feelings. Jake began joining family games, showing his humor and warmth that had been buried under silence. I realized something important. Healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about acknowledging it, learning from it, and choosing to move forward and together. We created new traditions. Sunday dinners became sacred again, with no phones, just real conversations. We celebrated small victories, a good grade, a completed painting, a solved problem, with genuine pride and attention. Even nightly check-ins became a habit. How are you feeling today? Sometimes we still stumble. Old habits die slowly, but now when silence creeps in, we notice it. When tension rises, we address it. When someone struggles, we reach out. And the beauty of it all? We became resilient, stronger, more connected, and more honest. We understood that family is messy, complicated, and sometimes heartbreaking. But it's also full of hope, love, and the kind of bond that can survive years of distance if nurtured. Looking back, I know we were lucky, not because we avoided pain, but because we chose to face it together. We learned to see each other, to hear each other, and to care in ways that go beyond words. The cracks in our walls are still there, a reminder of what we endured. But now sunlight flows through them freely, and in those beams of light we found what we had almost lost, each other. Family isn't perfect. It's not meant to be. But when we truly see each other, even in the hardest moments, we find the strength to heal, grow, and keep moving forward together. And that, I think, is the real meaning of home.